welcome to Bird Control Group, the podcast on bird behaviors. We will dive deeper into birds and their behaviors. Although birds are beautiful and sometimes breathtaking, they can be a real nuisance in a variety of cases, sometimes even a danger. We will try to figure out how we can control our environment and coexist with birds without harming them, and maybe, along the way, we will even manage to protect our winged friends.
Hi, my name is Ani Manukyan and I'm Global Marketing Lead at Bird Control Group. Today we have a special guest, also my dear colleague, Noer Abdoel. Noer works as Global Technical Consultant Lead. He is a seasoned expert with many years of experience assisting our partners and end customers globally. He specializes in laser installations, provides trainings, and offers technical support. I think this makes him really well acquainted with the unique challenges that bird infestations can present. In this episode, Noer will share his insights from the field, firsthand, including the common issues caused by birds, how the lasers can help solve these issues, and maybe when sometimes the lasers might not be the best solution. Let's explore this together. Welcome, Noer. Happy to have you here. Let's start by discussing some of the most common industries affected by bird challenges.
Yeah.
And what specific problems do they face?
So the biggest industry we work in is the agricultural industry. Some examples are the dairy farms, the soft fruits, like the berries, the grapes, but also row crops. I think poultry is also under the agricultural sector. The biggest challenges they face in that sector is yield losses, the birds eating crops, damaging the crops, but also hygiene issues and compliance issues. We also do a lot in the commercial industrial sector. Like warehouses, process plants, factories, rooftops. The challenge they face there, like nests can cause leakages. Bird droppings are very acidic. So, for instance, we did an installation at Hyundai Steel in South Korea. If it hits the steel plates, they just have to replace it because of the toxic things that are in the bird droppings.
Yeah.
But also with hangars, if it's bird droppings come on airplanes, they need to clean it. It's all very, very expensive. And we do also things in other industries like solar, renewable energy. With solar panels, it can decrease the efficiency of panels. It can also damage panels, which is very expensive to replace. The cleaning costs to clean the panels are very expensive. And also we do business in aviation, where they want to keep runways clear from birds to decrease that birds will hit the airplanes and things like that will happen. So I think those are the most common sectors we work in.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And all different ones.
Exactly.
But the biggest one you would say is the ag industry.
Yeah, definitely.
And how do you think bird behavior vary by species, and does it affect the way that you approach bird control management?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question, and I've learned a lot about bird behavior over time as well. For instance, like smaller birds, they have a shorter flight time, so they will just hop around the area. And if you deal with smaller birds, you have to create like the Wi-Fi pattern we always want to create, so push them outwards. And with bigger birds, it costs more energy to fly away. So if they are really tired or they are on water, it takes more energy to fly away. And then it's more likely that they won't fly away for the laser. So you have to keep it more intensive, play around with the speed. And what we also know is the higher up the food chain, the less effective the laser will be. So it doesn't work on birds of prey.
No.
The bigger birds and the birds that are more accustomed to human activity, that will also have an effect on the efficiency.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think also birds of prey are really smart.
They are.
So it's difficult to outsmart them.
Exactly. And they don't feel it as a threat. So because we want to create the aspect of a physical threat, and birds of prey, they are on top of the food chain, so they won't feel the laser as a real threat.
Nice. Can you maybe share some success stories where lasers significantly reduced bird nuisance?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of testimonials already online, but there are also a lot of clients that don't want the publicity. But we do have successes with them as well. And there's one client that does like exhibitions on rooftops, and they had it for multiple years, and every year they did like a different bird preventive method. And last year they came to us. We did the install, and I called them after the exhibitions was done. Were done, and they were really happy with the results of the laser. Normally the birds, they attack the people that come to the exhibition, and this year there were no birds at all.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people that have successes with the laser. Another one is the Bang & Olufsen one. I think we have a testimonial of that one.
Yes.
But that's also one I worked personally on with one of our resellers. And we assessed the situation, put it up, managed the expectations, and we had like great results over there. So those are a couple of success stories, I think.
Quite an interesting client too, right?
Yeah. We have a lot of big names as well. And well, I think the testimonials are online, right? So we can check those out and see the great stories.
Right, and they're all different, like from different regions.
Yeah.
So it makes me think, like, how does the installation environment affect the performance of the laser, like the landscape, maybe climate?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. The laser works within specific specifications, right? So, for instance, if we have temperature, that can play a role. We have a couple of lasers in like the desert, and the laser can work in a range minus 15 to plus 50 degrees Celsius. And in the desert it can get even harder. But the laser will just shut down, and when it cools down it will start again. So climate in terms of temperature can play a role, but also landscape. So if you have like a real wooded area, there are a lot of trees around the projection area. Birds will easily go inside of those trees and come back when they see an opportunity. So it might be a bit more difficult with those kinds of areas. And with urban areas, there's a lot of human traffic. So you have to take distractions into account, the human traffic into account, but also reflection of the laser, so it doesn't end up in a place where people. Every climate has their own challenges, and it's all different in a way.
Yeah, and you already mentioned that a bit, but are there any situations where lasers are not the best bird control solution?
Yeah, I think public spaces, the laser is not suitable to use in public spaces. It's a class 3B laser, which is the strongest laser class we can commercially sell. So we have to be careful with the use of our lasers. For instance, public parks, parking garages, but also hotels. They contact us to project on the side of the building, so birds don't sit on the windows. Those are really tricky areas, and we rather avoid it than try the laser out in those kinds of situations.
Yeah. So what can people do if they need to repel birds?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with other bird preventive methods, but what you usually see is a spiking or the electrical wires. I think those are very suitable in those kinds of situations. But I'm not an expert on that, so I'm not sure what the efficiency of that is.
I guess it also depends on the sector and the application.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. And what role does the proper installation and ongoing maintenance play in this, in the effectiveness of bird control?
Yeah, I think proper installation is what makes the use of a laser a success. The actual installation itself of the laser, it's quite easy to do. That's the way we build it. It's only 4 or 5 components you have to put together. The real tricky part is the configuration of the device. Because there are a lot of variables to take into account. For instance, the height of the laser, which is also part of the installation, but also the coverage. How much area do you cover with a laser? So normally we say 5 to 7 hectares. And it all depends on the bird pressure. Are there any other food sources around it? What are they there to do? So is it there for feeding, nesting? But also the speed plays a big role. We see in practice that if it goes too fast, Birds will notice it, but they will just think, oh, what passed me.
Yeah.
If it goes too slow, they won't feel it as a threat, so they just stay in their place. So what we try to do is like a gap between the fast walking or slow running speed, and that's something you want to create overall in the field. So the configuration part is I think the important part to make it a success. And whenever we see or we hear stories that it doesn't work on the birds, those are the things we look into, all the things that are variable. And when we make changes, for instance, the height, we want to create the effect that we are a bird of prey, because they fly higher than the normal birds. So when we change the height, it already makes a big difference. And then we play around with the speed, and then mostly it works afterwards.
So how long does the installation take for like a non-technical person like me, for example?
So like the installation part of putting it together, it might take 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The configuration part can take up to like 2 hours, I would say, because you have to create multiple patterns.
Yeah.
And we also want to replay every pattern that we create just to check if it doesn't go outside of the borders, if the speed is correct. And yeah, that's mostly it. So the replaying part, checking it, everything, and if everything is fine, creating multiple patterns on the field, that's what takes the most time.
And I guess that's why you need more of a like technical consultant role as a customer instead of trying to do configuration yourself.
Yeah. So we try to train our clients. So we give them all the information up front, but we also give them on-site training. So we create a pattern, we show them how to do it, and we also show what the correct speeds looks like. Some clients want to do the rest themselves, or we just finish that for them. So that's an important part of the role.
Yeah, can imagine.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. Well, I worked with you for so many years, so I know you've seen a lot out there. What are like some of the most challenging cases that you've seen, bird control cases?
Yeah, there's one really interesting case. There was a client in Australia who had issues with cockatoos, and we know cockatoos are very clever birds, so we tried to assess the situation. We checked the settings of the device, if everything was correctly, if the installation was done correctly. We looked at all the variables we discussed before, but still it wasn't working. So I went on site when I was in Australia, and I got to know that cockatoos have scouting birds.
Wow.
So they scout the area before the season starts, and if they don't see anything during that scouting round, you can call it, they will just take the risk afterward. So it doesn't work if you put it up later up in the season. So that's why we always recommend do it 2 months before the season, so birds already know it's a danger area.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting case, and I've learned a lot from this particular client.
Very
to be
interesting.
honest. Yeah. So that was an interesting one.
Crazy. I didn't know.
Yeah, me neither until I met this or saw this situation. Yeah.
So what did you do eventually with this
So
case?
we couldn't do anything for that season because, well, we can say a lot of things, but if it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. So we talked about this client to have it up earlier the next season, and that's something we did as well, and then it worked. So that was also a good result, and also confirmed the fact that the scouting birds are a real issue as well before. So it's important to have it up and running before the season starts.
Yeah, so that's one of the key factors you look for. Any other things that you take into account, like for the assessment?
Yeah, for the assessment, a lot of things are very important, right? So what kind of birds are present, and especially with these clever birds, you have to act a little bit differently. What are they doing on site? Are they there to nest? Because nesting birds, they are quite, they are protected when they're nesting. If they're there to feed, and if there are no other food sources around it, it will also be more tricky to scare them away. How does the area looks like? But also, where can we put up the laser? What height can we achieve? Is there any power points to have it on grid power? Do we need it on solar power? That's also things we need to take into account for the operational times of the device. And those are the biggest thing things we have to take into account when we make an assessment.
Makes sense. Do you usually do it prior to visiting the site location?
Yeah, so we do a little bit online. So we check on maps. How does it look like? What's around the area? But still, from a 2D view, you cannot see everything. So if it's a bit unclear, we visit the client and we do an on-site assessment, and then we can have everything clear as well. We can see the birds that are present, and we can see the area ourselves, if there are any obstacles, where we can place the laser, and we can also manage the expectations up front with the client. So an on-site installation is always better to do, but in some cases it's really straightforward, and then an online assessment is also fine.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that a lot of times it's hard to visit the client in person.
Yeah.
So how do you train the clients to make sure that they use the laser properly and effectively?
Yeah. So with our resellers, we train them. At least we train them online. We have a platform called Avix Academy. We have different courses, and so they can take it and will know every aspect of the laser, and especially the safety aspect of the laser. We also do this with our end clients. Before we do an installation, we want them to be up to speed and being known with the risk of working with a laser. And when we are on site, we give them like an smaller on-site training. We tell them how to use the device, how to change settings, but also how to reconfigure it. So we let them watch us creating patterns, so they can do it afterwards, or they can complete the installation, or if they want to move it around the area, they can do it themselves as well. So we will make sure they know every aspect of the laser itself before we leave a client.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we do have many partners around the globe. So do you give them like the same advice, or is it a guideline book that you share with them how to effectively install a laser, maximize the lifespan?
Yeah. Well, I give most resellers the same advice, but some areas are different than others. Some are only in the agricultural industry, some are more in the commercial industrial. So based on that, it differs a little bit. But overall, the principle of the laser is the same. We create a physical threat towards the bird, so we have to create a pattern. It has to move towards the birds. So the Wi-Fi pattern, we call it. It doesn't matter in which sector you're in, you always create the Wi-Fi pattern. The height, the speed, the coverage, it all remains the same a little bit. But there are those smaller things that are area specific. That's what we give the resellers as well as tips and tricks.
Nice. Well done, I guess.
Yeah.
I think since the lasers are pretty innovative solution in the market, have you seen any like unexpected uses of bird control lasers during your visits? Something that you would thought like, oh, like this is weird?
Yeah. Not so much. I think most installations are quite straightforward. However, I've seen some clients that use it on their private property just to protect their pools or their lawns.
Why not?
And it still works, exactly. It still works, but those are the stranger ones I've seen. So you go to a client and you just create a pattern around the pool, and that's it. And so I think there's one case, and I think that's the smallest pattern we created. It was 3 waypoints, and I think that's the strangest one I did so far.
And that was the pool?
That was the pool.
Yeah.
They had like an infinity pool, and he wanted to cover the edge of the pool. So we just created 3 waypoints, and that's
Crazy.
it. Yeah.
And it went back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow. Well, you visited a lot of countries, as I mentioned before, and a lot of customers. I'm curious, how many countries have you visited, and how many customers have you worked with?
Yeah. Yeah, so I always keep track of where I go.
Yeah.
So
like the world map with pins?
Yeah, exactly. And I have pictures of everywhere I go, so that's nice to keep track of. It's the count is at 15 now, 15 different countries.
Wow, yeah.
In terms of clients, that I'm not sure of. I think around 200 I've spoken to, but we also do online support. We speak to clients on the phone.
Yeah.
We visit them. So I think that's over 200 clients I've worked with in the almost 4 years I worked for BCG. So yeah, that's nice.
It is very nice.
Yeah.
And all from different industries, all
Yeah.
from different walks of life.
Yeah, different industries, and well, we try to go on a long-term relationship with our resellers. So a lot of those countries you visit more often. But also we grew a lot since I started at BCG. So we had a lot of new resellers, new clients. So yeah, I think 2 months in the job, my first country I visited was Poland, and then yeah, it went off, and I visited a lot of different countries, Oman, Middle East, Australia, a couple of times. I've been to the US lately, so yeah, very exciting.
When actually did you start at Bird Control?
Almost 4 years ago. So in December,
Yeah.
it's 4 years ago.
And
Yeah.
your role changed since then?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was more yeah, doing installations and service visits, and the troubleshooting part, of course, and that's still a big part of the job. But now it's getting more commercial. So we also yeah, get involved with our partners. We are also in the onboarding phase. We train them, and we also see their needs. So we keep in close contact with our partners, and yeah, it's also more of an account managing part of the job
Yeah.
now. So yeah, that's nice how it grew over time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It goes hand in hand, right? It's like
Exactly.
the technical part, commercial part for you.
yeah, exactly.
Any memorable experiences that you can share with us?
Yeah, for me it was I wasn't used of working in the agricultural sector before.
Yeah.
But it was really nice to see that you get treated like part of the family. So I always arrange everything when I go to a client. I get my own car, I book a hotel if it's for multiple days. But every time I go to a client in the agricultural sector, they let me have dinner with them, with the whole family. They ask me if I want to sleep over, things like that. So they make you feel like you're part of their farm family. And that's a really nice experience I had working in this sector.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So what has been the most rewarding part of this job? Traveling or building relationships?
Yeah, for me is well, we provide sort of a service, right? So
Right.
we help our clients, our resellers with their bird issues, and we do it in an animal-friendly way. But still, doing that, for me, the most rewarding part is if I do an installation or I help with an installation, and I call the client 2 or 3 weeks after, and they're so happy with it, they don't have any bird issues anymore. That's for me the most rewarding part, like helping them solving their issues. And of course, it's nice to travel and all the other perks of the job, but I think this is the most rewarding part.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing the most interesting and your favorite destination so far that you've been to?
My favorite destination, I think that's Australia.
Okay.
Just I like the environment,
Yeah.
the people that are there, and that's nothing about the other
No,
countries I've
no.
been, but I can see myself living in Australia.
Oh, who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe.
who knows?
Well, thanks a lot, Noor. It was
Yeah.
really informative. Thank you for spending time with us, and see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you, Annie.